This is a really simple project. What we're going to do today is we're going to make this footlight that you can use for photography and videography. It's really simple. It's battery powered. We're going to need a couple components before we begin. First thing that you're going to need is some foam core board. I got this from the dollar store. If you're not familiar with foam core, it's a sheet of paper on each side with a core of foam. You're going to need one of these battery operated flashlights. They call it a work light. I've obviously got a few of them. These are given out by a company called Harbor Freight as usually like a premium. If you buy something, you get a flashlight free. If you don't have a Harbor Freight next to you, you can also get them commercially. I've seen them for anywhere between $6 and $3. And you're going to need a fender washer, a 1/4 inch fender washer. The first thing you're going to want to do is lay out your cutting lines. I'm going to use a Sharpie. You might want to use a pencil. Whatever you use, try not to score the paper with it. So, first thing I'm going to do is make some tick marks so that I know where to measure to. I have another tick mark here. This sheet of foam core board is actually enough to make 3 of the lights. Okay, so this is going to be scrap. This is going to be a base. Oops. And this part we're going to call the shield. And we're going to have 3 of each. The next step is to cut the foam core board. Make sure you use a sharp knife for this. If you use a dull knife, what it's going to do is it's going to pull the paper rather than cut through the paper. If you're not really good at cutting straight, you can use a metal straight edge to help you. Just make sure to keep your fingers out of the way so you don't get cut. Okay, so we're going to set the base aside for a moment, and we're going to take the shield. The shield measures 8.5 inches by 11 inches, the exact same size as a sheet of paper. So if you think about a sheet of paper, you've got a portrait layout and a landscape layout. Go ahead and turn it to the landscape. I'm going to turn it upside down just so that we can have a clean surface to draw on. You're going to need your ruler again, and you're going to make some tick marks. First thing you're going to want to do is measure in 2 3/4 inches from each side. And I have to do that top and bottom. And then tick marks 3 inches up from the bottom. Now let's join these lines. These vertical lines are going to be where we score the shield. So I'm going to give it a dotted line. And then we're going to find some cut lines that go where the dotted line touches the top and the tick mark that we made 3 inches up on the side. Okay, now I need my eraser again, my utility knife. Let's see if I can do that a little better. Okay, so there's our shield. These lines here, I don't want to cut all the way through the foam core board. I just want to cut the tops, the top sheet of paper. So I'm just going to lightly drag the knife across it. And what that's going to let us do is bend the shield. Now let's do some work on the base. I'm going to make a tick line, or tick, to draw a line 1 inch up from the bottom edge. And I also want to mark where the center is. I'm going to draw a line 1 inch from the bottom edge. This is not a cut line, this is just a reference line, and I want to mark the center. So it's 8.5 inches wide, so 4 1/4 would be my center mark. By the way, I should have done this before. I need to mark the center, put a center mark on my shield also. It's 11 inches across, so that would be 5.5 inches. And what these two marks are for is when I put this together, I want to align the two marks so that my shield is centered on my base. So the next step is to use a hot glue gun to glue the shield to the base. Now it's going to help if you fold the sides back to begin with, just to help you get it straight up and down on the base. So I'm going to align my two tick marks. Be careful with your hot glue. If you get it on your skin, it'll sit there and stick to you and burn you at the same time. I'm just going to put a bead of hot glue here, although my glue gun is not behaving. There it goes. I want to let that cool a little, cool in place. Then what I want to do is glue the sides. So I'm going to fold the shield out until the edge of the shield touches the edge of the base. And then I'll give that a bead of hot glue. And I'll repeat this for the other side. Perhaps. There it goes. Okay, now I'm going to let the glue set up for a moment here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bead of hot glue on the inside seam also. Then the last thing that we're going to do with the hot glue is where I scored the shield and bent it. I've exposed the foam core, and what I want to do is just fill that gap with glue. Or welding, I would call this a fillet. And this is going to give strength to the shield, as well as preventing the paint from getting into the foam core. The foam core, sometimes the chemicals in the paint will eat the foam, so they should protect it a little bit. Okay, now there's one last thing that we're going to want to do with the hot glue gun. That's take a Fender washer and we're going to glue it to the base. So let me just find the center of the base. Once again, the base is 8.5 inches wide, so I just need to mark it 4 1/4, which is halfway. This part is a little tricky because you're just asking to burn your fingers. But carefully put some hot glue on the washer and then slap it down on the base. Try and push it down as tight as you can. You really don't want it to stick up. And there you have it. You're done with the construction. You're done with the hot glue gun. I'm going to go ahead and unplug it and move it off camera where it can cool down. And let me explain why you put a washer there. These lights have a magnet on the back. It's a pretty strong magnet, and once you clamp it on that base, it's not going anywhere. I mean, even upside down, it doesn't come off. So that just gives you the ability to grab the shield and move it around without having to worry about the flashlight falling off. So it's a convenience thing. The next thing you're going to want to do is prime this. I just used nothing special, just flat gray primer. Here's what the shield looks like primed. I didn't even bother priming the bottom. You could probably do that if you wanted to. And then after that, you'd want to spray paint it. In this case, I just used a hammered bronze. Hammered pewter. This was some paint that I had lying around, so it didn't really cost me anything. And then the last thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put some tin foil on the inside. It is a reflector and it will reflect, but the major reason that you want to do it is because the shield itself is translucent. The light will go through it and you want to block that light off. The aluminum foil is not translucent, so it will block the light as well as being a reflector. So take your sheet of tin foil, aluminum foil rather. Make sure your glue isn't still hot. And go ahead and just press it on the inside of the shield. Because now what I have is the imprint of the shield, and you'll see where that's going to come in handy in just a second. The next thing you're going to want to do, I'm going to use my, I'll use this example. I would normally have the shield primed and painted before I do this, but for the demonstration, I'll just use this unprimed one. You can do this with rubber cement. What I'm going to use is contact cement, and sometimes contact cement's pretty nasty. If you're in a closed area, you may want to do it outside instead because of the fumes. But I'm just going to put a bead of glue on the fold of the shield, and the thinner the better. And along the edges of the shield, the inside edges, let me be specific there. Oops, I got a little sloppy with the glue there, but that's okay. Just going to put some in the middle. Bead along the top. Now, if you're not familiar with the way you're supposed to use rubber cement or contact glue, what you're going to do next is let it dry. It's a little too thin. So this will be drying while I do the same thing to my tin foil. So there's a dull side of the tin foil and there's a shiny side. So we're probably going to want to put the glue on the dull side. I don't know if calling it tin foil shows my age. We just always called it tin foil when I was growing up. Even though it's aluminum. And then some in the middle. And a little bit across the bottom. Don't do this with a brush that you like because the brush isn't going to be much good afterwards. This is a disposable, they call it a chip brush. Very cheap, very disposable. The next thing to do is just wait and let this dry. So I want to stop the cameras and I'll come back in about 10 minutes and I'll finish up this project. Okay, it's been a few minutes and the glue's dry. So what we're going to do is press the two pieces together. And the way contact cement works is as soon as the glue on one side contacts the glue on the other side, boom, they're glued solid. So we're going to be a little bit careful here because the aluminum foil the aluminum foil isn't strong enough to withstand me pulling it off if I make a mistake. And now the aluminum foil is glued to the inside of the shield. I'm just going to take a utility knife, actually in this case a blade, and just cut around it. Made a little bit of a mistake here. I didn't get it quite in the corner. I'm not going to be able to pull that up. And that's it. You're done. Just take your light when you're ready. Slap it on there. I did notice that the actual color of the light it's very, very daylight. So one of the things that you can do is maybe put a gel on it, obviously a daylight gel, a yellow gel if you wanted to make it look more soft, more like an indoor light, more incandescent. This is a red piece of gel that I just put on there. These lights come with batteries when you buy them, but they're not very good, so you want to make sure that before you go do a shoot, if you're going to be using it for any amount of time, you probably want to bring some batteries with you, or put new batteries in it to begin with. You'll need a screwdriver to change the batteries, so keep that in mind. Keep a screwdriver in your toolkit. They're portable, super portable, super light. If one gets destroyed, you're really not losing that much. The foam core board that I bought, it was $1 for a sheet, and remember, a sheet is big enough to get three of these footlights out of them. The washer is about 11 cents, and if you play your cards right, the light is either going to be about $3 or free. Down below are going to be some links where you can get a copy of the layout that gives you the measurements. Happy shooting!